Wait, Barry.
Record. If you are practicing turn of the decade 2010 SEO, that is trying to optimize your pages and posts the way you did just a half a decade ago, you better listen to this episode because things ain't the same anymore. And we're going to talk about how to optimize your pages and posts successfully.
Absolutely. Optimizing your content for search really, really matters.
I think, yeah. It matters to Orbit Media Studios with their very search-centric techniques, and it's it matters to Feldman Creative, and I learned it all from you, Andy.
Well, you are one of the best at it now. I watch you do it all the time, and you're a pro. You did a piece recently on Content Marketing Institute, which was a huge home run. That was a crank your rank, great headline, as you are so apt to give things. So we're going to talk about on-page SEO, right? There's two parts of SEO. There's authority, which is link popularity, being known among other sites, getting mentions, getting links, and kind of like digital PR. But this is really about on-page, choosing and using keywords, where to put them, why it matters, where they go. So start us off. Yeah.
Choosing and using. All right. But real quick, if you missed us, people, we did miss a week. Little rockabye baby action. Mr. Crestadina became a daddy to a little boy named Eli.
Thank you. There's one more person in this world. His name is Eli, and he's 3 weeks and 1 day old. He's a cute little bugger.
How's mom?
Mom's good. I just love going home. So let's record this let's make a podcast, and I'll go home and kiss the baby.
All right, welcome to the multi-generational version of Content Matters. All right, so obviously when you're going to optimize your posts, even though it's not 2010, Google has to know what your post and your page is about. So Andy wrote a killer blog post that details a bunch of stuff that inspired me, I think, to create a pretty good post, like you just mentioned, for Content Marketing Institute, and with it an infographic. So Andy's identified 5 things that are still must-have, starting with a title tag, like he said. And so give it to us, Andy. That's a pretty simple one.
Sure. The title tag of any page is the single most important piece of SEO real estate. Use your target phrase and use it once in the title. The next 2 places are going to be the header and the body text. These are all totally visible places, so it's obvious, it makes sense that Google would pay attention to these most visible places where the keyword appears, where the reader will see it. So your header, that's the H1 tag, should include the target key phrase, of course. And in your body text, we don't finesse it too much. We don't worry about key phrase density or exactly the specific number of times. Basically, we just want to indicate relevance. And if you wrote an 800 or 1,000 word article that is truly the best page on the internet for that topic, you probably use the phrase 3 or 4 or 5 times. So use the phrase in the title, header, and body. That's basic on-page SEO. We go beyond that now with semantic SEO, which is also kind of a fun topic. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, but before we depart density, that I think is just a word that you lose out of your vocabulary now, right? It's
man.
Dense to think about density, right? Like you said, if you're writing about the topic that you've chosen to be your title tag or to be your keywords, it's in there. And if you're putting it in there just purposely for SEO, you are running the dangerous risk of actually getting penalized.
No stuffing, please. No keyword stuffing. Write for readers. Indicate relevance. Like you said, Google has to know what the page is about. Use the phrase you're targeting. But the semantic thing, it goes a bit beyond that, right? Because it's not just about targeting phrases. It's about targeting topics. As the famous quote from Amit Singhal, former head of the search team at Google, said, they've created a new, more intelligent model that knows the relationship between entities. It's about things, not strings. So things as in topics, target topics, not strings as in combinations of words and letters. When you target a topic, you want to find the phrases that are semantically linked to your phrase, and that might be looking down at the bottom of the search results page when you search for it. I just did this like an hour and a half ago with a video production company, and it was the phrases related to video production were words like studio, words like videography, words like, I think what else was in there? Animation. So if you're targeting the phrase video production, you should probably be using, music was one. Use those other words that you can tell are semantically linked by finding clues of what's semantically linked, and use those in your topic, in your page. So you're spreading out your meaning across a slightly broader topic. It's not just about that, using that one very specific phrase.
Yeah, I think there's a fair amount of intuition in there, but Google's going to help you with that by showing you. You told me a lot of times in your SERP or search engine result page, they're bolded simply because they are semantically
Mm-hmm.
related. And then at
Mm-hmm.
the bottom of the page, it says, people also search for this. So yeah, so those essentially become things you cover, and you'll find that it makes keyword research more difficult on one hand, and it makes keyword research more simple on the other hand, because like it doesn't really matter if your word's plural or not, like
Mm-hmm.
copywriter's often something that I'm looking for, and the copywriting, and it might be the same thing. I think semantic search came along because we're talking to our devices now. I mean, perhaps not only because of that, but I think we're so smartphone centric now that we rely on Siri or just speaking to Google and so forth, and so the search engines do its job, has to sort of interpret what you say, and that's not always exact.
Yeah, yeah. So don't obsess about a specific plural form or grammatical form. Make a great page on the topic. That's the bottom line. But try to spread the meaning across those phrases that we know to be semantically linked, because we found evidence for that. You'll find it not only makes keyword research in some ways kind of easier, but it makes your content better. Makes your content better, right? You're going to go deeper on that topic. You're going to get other ideas, and you're going to cover it more broadly, which is good for your readers.
Right, it's kind of mind mapping. All right, let's talk about meta description. Before we move on, though, meta description sounds scary, and ultimately, if you understand it, it doesn't actually go on your page. But a meta description becomes the thingamajig that Google calls a snippet, or users call a snippet. So when you're optimizing your page and your post, what you want to do is write, how many characters is it?
155 characters would be the point after which it gets cut off. It's like that's the kind of a little bit of a limit.
Okay, so what you're doing is you're writing a reason to click. You're sort of writing an ad about your post or page that hopefully will appear. It often does. If your snippet's going to be something other than a meta description, if it doesn't exist, and so you have the power. At least you try to have the power, and often do have the power to tell Google what to display in your search result, such that people will click it. So it says, read this to learn this, and so forth. And that's another place where your keyword should go, because those indeed will be bolded. And will help people sort of semantically connect, if you will.
You just dropped a jewel. I'm going to be saying that over and over from now on. That was a gorgeous way to put it. Write an ad about your post. So that makes the point where we're talking about readers, right? We're talking about searchers. We're talking about humans. But of course, use the target phrase.
Yeah, now we're going to have to fly, as we often do, but probably the more interesting thing about this post that Andy wrote maybe a year ago and then resurfaced in my infographic is there's 16 tactics about how to make your posts user-friendly, how to make the page that you publish a great experience such that people click on it, spend time with it, share it, tell people about it, enjoy it, all the things that are less obvious and perhaps subtle, but are becoming part of the SEO equation. And so Andy's got 10 tactics for engaging the reader, and then 6 more elements for more compelling media mix. And this is great stuff, so please pay close attention. Let's talk about some of these tactics for engaging the reader, Andy.
Sure. So the idea is that it's the tale of two pages. They both rank in Google. The visitor clicks the first from Google search results page, goes to the page, spends 10 seconds, and hits the back button. They go to the second. Yep. They go to the second page. They click it. They spend 5 minutes and hit the back button. Sure, the visitor bounced from both pages, but the second click was the long click. The second click had more dwell time. That is a powerful signal to Google that that's a much higher quality page. So the question becomes, how do you keep your visitors on your page? The answer? It's about user experience, right? It's a user interaction signal. So we do that by formatting headers, subheaders, bullets, bold. There's internal linking, quotes, mentions, multiple images. Make sure your post never has a desert of text, right? At every scroll depth, there should be something visually interesting. We see the pro bloggers do this all the time. You have to, make sure that you break up your this wall of text that you're creating by putting in visuals or something interesting that will keep the visitor there for longer. Right? For scan readers, we live in fear that we're going to lose that visitor that hit the back button, and we adapt for that by including more media, more content, more formatting, more scannability.
Yeah, featured image makes the list here, and is obvious as that seems to talk about giving your pages some eye candy, and something we've discussed before, obviously, in a previous episode about visual marketing. I still find a lot of blogs, especially in the B2B space, that don't have featured images, or they don't have, I guess if they don't have the featured images, they don't have any images. And so I think, your brain looks at that page, it looks like a book page, and you go, not for me.
Not for me.
Yeah.
You hit the back button, you sent a negative user interaction signal, and don't expect to rank high next time. So it's really, it's not, we create text for search to indicate relevance because that's what Google understands. But we have to pay attention to this visitor, keep them on the page. If you go look at your own analytics, you'll find many of your high-ranking pages might have average time on page in like 4, 5, 6 minute range. Time on page has a high correlation with high rankings.
Yeah, so they need to look good, and they need to be broken up, and they need to have a negative space. I think it's kind of like, does it look like a novel? That's at one end of the spectrum, or does it look like a magazine, which is probably what you're going for? That's the other end of the spectrum. And in between is, I guess, does it look like a newspaper? And it's a little dangerous. The more cool bands of gray, otherwise known as copy, whether or not that's what they're there for, and hopefully that is what they're there for, to learn something. They can't do that without reading. The psychology just kicks in that this is going to be boring and painful.
Right. So we're a web design company, and a huge percentage of our clients start their projects by saying, we like a clean, open, modern design. Subtext, they like white space. Okay, designers all know that, and they know how to design pages, and you're great at visual marketing. You make things open. Now, a lot of writers, though, didn't get the memo. Writers create white space, too. You do it with short paragraphs. I almost never write a paragraph longer than 3 lines. Yeah. I often throw in single sentence paragraphs or use short words, short sentences, and short paragraphs. But I never try to write short posts. I write a long, thorough post that covers the topic in detail. That's my goal as a search optimizer and as a content marketer.
Yeah, copy blogger / rainmaker certainly, is a great example of that. There's, the rules about what's a paragraph and what isn't have changed, I think. And so you look for places and opportunities to break it up.
Absolutely. Don't give your readers a wall of text. And that's what I said about images. In a desert of text, images are water. Give your readers a sip. The farther down they go to that page, you want to give them a little bit more, a reason to stay, a little bit more eye candy. We have to slow them down. They're scan readers. All of us are scan readers. That's how the internet works. So
we got a cool little list here of elements to make the page and posts more compelling in terms of media, and that just keeps getting easier if you're talking about one of these things for those listening. We're talking about smartphones, and it's an audio production studio and a video production studio, so it's easy to embellish your pages with stuff, and so that stuff includes more images. You learned, if you're keeping up with Andy and I's content, that blog posts are getting longer. And so 1,500 words is almost like the norm now. A featured image is not enough. More images, more screenshots. Video, super compelling stuff. All the statistics about video just say, conversion, time on page.
Yep.
Audio, slide share made Andy's list. And then the next two are interesting. Click to tweet. That's cool. That's the introduction of a social element here.
Sure. And then the bottom one was lead magnets. Give people a reason. Something though, I'll rewind a little bit on video and audio. If you're trying to keep the visitor on your page, we didn't say that has to be a video you made.
Good. Yeah.
Or audio, same thing, right? Or SlideShare, same thing. We want to make this a great page. We didn't want to be the person who made every aspect of it necessarily. We'll give credit where credit's due, and we'll pull in anything from anywhere, any diagram, any image, proper attribution, any video, give credit, but just make it a great page, period. That's going to increase that user interaction signal, which increases the rank.
Yeah, the big word for that's curation, and I think with it comes credibility, right? If you're going to, talk about the use of white space, let's say, on your page, why not, borrow from Copy Blogger and show it, or talk about how they talk about it, and reciprocity kicks in, right? You're probably bound to get backlinks as a result.
That's right. That's called ego bait. Mention someone else, they are likely to share. So it's time, Barry. We got to call it.
All right.
Mousetraps and cheese.
Right. So Barry, that's me, people, gives the cheese idea, which is about content, and Andy follows with conversion. And so I guess this is this card's been played a little bit, but what I wanted to talk about was content consumers today. They have short attention spans. Now, I don't think that, the myth that it equals or is lower than goldfish is actually true, but the truth is, we multitask, we're busy, and so we're scrolling and swiping and skimming, and we're forever skeptical and looking for a reason to leave a page. And perhaps it's a big accomplishment just to get somebody there in the first place. If it if the tease happened as a result of an email update or a social media update or so forth. And so forever keep in mind the things that we've talked about today about satisfying the need for someone to find something useful and usher them into your material with all the tactics you have, and that includes the call out, that like magazine style pulls in something somebody said that's cool that you're quoting, subheads, generous use of subheads, captions, generous use of captions. I think whether you know it or not, as a content consumer, your eye flies to all those things that are sort of lingering out there, like captions. And so if you're thinking, how can I appeal to the skimmer and get them back to the top and start this awesome piece that I spent hours on, think about skimmability.
And I'll add to this a little bit, since this is our topic of on-page SEO. That H2 tag, H3 tag, that caption, those are all places you can throw your keyword. As long as it makes sense, those are perfectly reasonable places to help indicate relevance. I love that. That also segues nicely into my mousetrap tip. So here's a conversion tip, not a strict conversion tip like converting a visitor into a subscriber or a lead or a shopper, but converting the visitor into someone who goes deeper because they came from search. We're talking about SEO with simple internal linking. I'm a huge, huge fan of internal linking. I think it's that totally underrated science of content marketing. The idea is just that we, first of all, for search's sake, pass authority from one page to another through links, right? Credibility flows through the internet, flows through your website through links. So internal linking is an opportunity to link to another post. It's also an opportunity to do so in a way that includes the key phrase in the anchor text. If I'm writing an article on the topic of lead magnets, I want to use that phrase lead magnets on that page, right? Title, header, body text. But I can also use the phrase lead magnets in links on other pages that point to that page. Now, that's a good place to use the key phrase in links and other places that point to that page. So don't overdo it, of course, that's spam. But and internal linking, of course, is also calls to action. It's also read more. It's also a citation to someone else, right? So internal linking is one of those great things, kind of like testimonials. It has the chance in some ways to both increase traffic and increase conversions. We'll share a post in the show notes about that, but that is a super powerful tool that actually has a lot to do with conversions.
Yeah, if it works, you've increased the stickiness of your site, and I think that as a factor in search, it just continues to grow.
Yeah, it's so pay close attention to what you're linking to. A couple of quick extra tips. You're not done promoting a blog post until you have linked to it from an older blog post. Everyone knows to link to new stuff link from their new stuff to other stuff. But when you post something new, find something old that's relevant, to the topic and link to your new article. So another thing is probably every blog post should link to a product or service, right? Add these to your checklist. Add these to your editorial standards. Internal links are very powerful and underutilized, underappreciated.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes for a good argument to have some sort of structure. I don't need to tell you this, as organized as you are, Mr. Spreadsheet Guy, to know where your old content actually is, right? Some of the smaller companies like me, it's often between your ears. But yeah, I thanks to knowing you, I now do immediately remind myself, I need to take advantage of the, cross-linkability between content that already exists on my blog.
Yeah.
All right, we better wrap it up. We're going to come back at you soon and get back on pace to speak to you once every other week at least. And when we reconvene, we're going to talk about some email essentials, some of the basics you need to understand to become a email collector, list builder, and lead nurturer.
Love it. That's a huge topic. I don't know a single hardcore marketer that's not aggressively growing their list. So this is going to be a good one. I'm looking forward to it.
Strike up the man!
Woo! Thanks, Barry. Another good one in the books. See you guys online. If you like this podcast, you're more than welcome to leave us a review. And of course, you can find Barry wherever Barry Feldman writes, which is everywhere. And you can find me on orbitmedia.com. We'll share the links in the show notes, including the one to the beautiful infographic he made that we've been referring to throughout this podcast. So we will see you all online.